Hey, guys, I'm new. The new anime I'm sharing with you today is named The Iceblade Sorcerer Shall Rule the World. The story begins with a death in which Ray, a top sorcerer, witnesses his friend being killed. He loses his mind and bursts out with ice magic, a force that can almost cut off a mountain. After the war, Ray leaves the frontline battlefield and goes study at the best magic academy on the continent, remaining anonymous. What happens next makes me worry about the villains. The Magic Academy only accepts nobles, but Ray is treated as a commoner by other students after hiding his identity. Many noble students think it is humiliating to study with him, and the leading student Albert even tries to drive Ray away by violence. Just then, Amelia, one of the three grand nobles, stops them. The girl does not mind Ray's background. Albert should really thank Amelia for her interference. Otherwise, Ray would have beaten him to incontinence. At the subsequent entrance ceremony, the Academy Principal Abby gives a speech, strictly requiring all new students to train hard to become high-level sorcerers. Amelia also speaks as a representative of the new students, and Ray did not expect to meet a popular figure when he first entered the academy. Amelia has an abundant knowledge reserve, and the screenwriter introduces us to the hierarchy of this world through her speech. The lowest to highest levels of sorcerers are bronze, silver, gold, platinum and grand. The amount of sorcerers of the first 4 levels is large, while there are only 7 grand sorcerers existing per era. The identities of these 7 grand sorcerers are kept secret, except for Academy Principal Abby and Carol, a grand sorcerer who is famous for her sexy body. Everyone has heard of another grand sorcerer who uses an ice blade, but they would never expect that the Iceblade sorcerer is the farmer Ray who is despised by them. Students in the class are actively learning magic theory, working towards the dream of becoming a grand sorcerer. But Albert has been thinking about how to drive away Ray. Ray doesn't waste time on Albert, and while learning the basics of magic, he also meets a new classmate, Elisa. The girl is a hybrid of human and elf, and is often discriminated against for having elven ears. With Ray's encouragement, Elisa becomes confident and no longer hides her face in her hat. Ray and his roommate Evie also become friends. Evie worships the strong but does not care about the difference between commoners and nobles, and he is keenly aware that Ray is the same. Besides these new friends in the academy, the Principal Abby, whom everyone fears, is Ray's comrade who has fought alongside him. However, Ray only dares to meet Abby in private to not reveal his identity. Abby is usually very serious, but she will show her cute side to Ray, which will certainly shock students if there's any here. Soon, Ray has been enrolled for a while, and practice competitions are held in the class that day. Ray confronts Albert, who intends to take the opportunity to beat up Ray. However, the crying person turns out to be Albert after the 2 rounds of fighting. His strength gap with Ray is like that between Saitama and King in One Punch Man. Albert's blade was shattered by Ray, and he falls to his knees in shock and despair. At night, there are constant gasps in Ray and Evie's room. Don't mistake them for a couple. These 2 men are just so hungry for strength that they maintain a high-intensity workout even late at night. With both talent and hard work, it's no wonder that Ray became one of the 7 grand sorcerers on the continent. In the subsequent campus life, the reason why Ray hid his identity and entered the school is gradually revealed. His past life was either practicing or fighting on the front lines, and Ray, like Mudun in Immoral Guild, wanted to experience campus life. With his strong physique, he joins a group full of muscular men, and with a good temper, he becomes a member of a girls' club led by Rebecca, the president of the student council. Rebecca is fascinated by Ray's huge muscles and often asks Ray to let her touch them. Therefore, Amelia and Rebecca, both from the 3 grand nobles, become friends with Ray. Ray thought he can live this life away from strife, until Abby secretly reveals to him that there are spies of Empire hiding in the academy. A war in the dark seems to be approaching. A few days later, the school's annual practical exercise begins. Ray, Evie, Amelia and Elisa are in a group. For Ray, this kind of drill is very easy, and the monsters are all eliminated by him in one move. But soon this calm is shattered. Albert's group is attacked by a monster, and Ray helps them kill the monster, despite of Albert's grudge against him. At this moment, a mysterious man hiding in the shadows casts magic on the deceased monster, which is then resurrected. With a more terrifying look, Ray takes the lead in confronting the monster, but he finds that the opponent's shell is unusually hard. Just when Ray is a little hesitant to expose his full strength to kill the monster, his companions surprise him. Evie, Amelia and Elisa take turns releasing magic to drag the monster, while Ray finds the monster's weakness and kills it with one blow. The mysterious person hidden in the shadows silently watches all this. Albert is very jealous of Ray, completely forgetting that Ray just saved him. In the end, Ray's team won the actual combat drill. Many absent students mistake it for Amelia's credit. After all, the girl is much more famous in school than Ray. Besides, Ray is a commoner, and the noble students in the school wouldn't want a commoner to exceed them. Ray doesn't care what everyone else thinks, and after the practice, he goes to see his master, Lydia, who is the previous Iceblade sorcerer, but now she is seriously injured and can only sit in a wheelchair. The master-apprentice chats reveal two important pieces of information. One is that Ray seems to have some important hidden dangers in his body, which will indirectly affect his combat effectiveness. Another piece has to do with Lydia, who has been conducting research on the human brain, trying to decipher the relationship between magic and the human brain. Recently, she discovers an organization is also doing related research, but the members of the organization are so radical that they directly kidnap and kill sorcerers to do research, and they even try to recruit Lydia to join them. Lydia no longer has the combat power of her peak, and now she can only hope that Ray will be wary of this organization. While walking, Lydia takes out an elaborate magic manual from her clothes and gives it to Ray as a gift. Lydia is happy to see the change in Ray, who finally has some smiles on his face. The source of Ray's change comes from his classmates. Although many of them hate him as an ordinary civilian, Ray has made a lot of friends, including the gentle girl Elisa and another aristocrat he just knew, Clarice. But the most popular one of these friends is Amelia. Because of these girls, Ray's life is no longer only about fighting, but also about afternoon tea and shopping. One day, Amelia asks Ray to go shopping for some new clothes with her. While trying some on in the fitting room, Amelia is frightened by a spider and throws herself into Ray's arms with just her underwear on. Amelia feels embarrassed and runs back to the fitting room, but her expression is both shy and expectant. Ray really has some luck. Back to school, he bumps into Rebecca, who is changing clothes. Afterwards, Ray feels guilty and keeps apologizing to Rebecca, but each of his apologies reminds Rebecca of the embarrassing accident. Unconsciously, Rebecca has a deeper and deeper impression of Ray. Others please her because of her aristocratic background, but Ray has always remained sincere. Rebecca can't tell what kind of emotion she has for Ray. Amelia has Ray in mind like Rebecca, except that Amelia has been preparing for the Sword Sorcerer tournament recently, so the way she gets close to Ray is duels. Since witnessing Ray's combat power against monsters, Amelia has wanted to fight him. Ray happens to lack some decent opponents, so he and Amelia have a fierce showdown. Amelia is indeed very strong, arguably the top combat power among the freshmen, and she forces Ray to show some real skills. At the decisive moment, Ray has some unknown accidents in his mind, which seem to be the hidden danger mentioned by Lydia. In the end, Ray lost the match. Of course, he knows what he showed was far from his true strength. The match makes Albert look down on Ray even more and asks him for a duel. Ray also wants these nobles to ease out, so he agrees to the duel. Albert acts quite strangely, yelling all the time and is very feverish. A voice keeps ringing in his head, reminding Albert to kill Ray for the family's glory. Albert falls into a state of complete rage, but his frequent unleashes of magic are all dodged by Ray. Even Albert's powerful magic is cut by Ray's blade like a baseball. Just when everyone is still shocked by Ray's strength, Albert's fighting spirit is completely broken. Ray has shown his real strength, which is much stronger than most. He no longer wants to hide his identity from his friends, but just as Ray is about to formally introduce himself, all his classmates suddenly collapse and cannot move. At this time, a mysterious person appears in front of Ray. She turns out to be Miss Gray, a teacher at the academy. She has always been very kind in school, but is actually a member of the evil organization that Lydia mentioned. Many of the missing students were killed by Gray. Albert was also influenced by Gray's magic, and that's why he was so hostile to Ray. When Albert and Ray were fighting, Gray had already laid out the enchantment around, and she will capture all the students here to do research. Ray's strength is undoubtedly above Gray, but he cannot guarantee the safety of his classmates while fighting Gray. So Ray unleashes the power in his body, forming an ice wall to fend off Gray's attack on his friends. Meanwhile, 6 more ice blades appear around Ray out of nowhere. Gray is frightened to see this, unleashing all kinds of magic like crazy, which are easily defused by Ray. Gray's strongest magic is like a stone thrown by a child for Ray. Gray is soon defeated like Albert, and she knows that there is no hope of either escaping or winning the duel now. So Gray takes the risk to use all the research results so far on herself, instantly turning into a monster. Ray is unable to bring out his full strength due to the influence of some past events. Now that Gray has gained great strength through transformation, Ray is forced to fight overloaded, with blood oozing from his forehead. As the fierce collision of the magic with 2 different attributes bursts into a dazzling light, Ray successfully seals Gray. After all, Ray has the top strength in the entire continent. However, with his energy overdrawn, Ray falls into a coma, and in a daze, Ray's consciousness seems to return to his childhood when his hometown was destroyed in the war, while Ray, saved by Lydia, was the only survivor. After that, Ray followed Lydia to meet some of the strongest sorcerers in the country, and with his outstanding talent, he was able to fight as a teenager. Unfortunately, no one plays the role of winner forever in war. After a battle where Ray witnessed his partners being killed and his master getting seriously injured, Lydia couldn't bear to have him stay in the army to keep fighting, and she hoped that Ray could live the life of most of his peers. Therefore, as her comrade Abby was transferred to the Magic Academy as the principal, she asked Abby to admit Ray as a student there. When Ray wakes up, he learns from Abby about his master's painstaking efforts for the first time, so he decides to make friends as Lydia wants, and Ray confesses his story to some of his best classmates, including how he suffered a loss of control of his mind and magic power, resulting in huge casualties on the battlefield. Thus, part of his strength has been sealed to prevent the same accident from happening again. His friends are all very surprised after hearing Ray's story. No one has ever expected that he was the Iceblade sorcerer among the 7 grand sorcerers. The good news is that nobody distances him over his identity, and Amelia gives Ray a warm hug. Recovered from his injury, Ray returns to class and finds the teacher who replaces Miss Gray is his former comrade in arms, Carol. Carol's body is so hot that both boys and girls are attracted to her 2 huge weapons. Adolescents are particularly energetic in hormones, including the school belle, Amelia. When she takes a bath alone, her mind is full of Ray's heroic fighting. But the last time when Ray saw Amelia wearing only underwear, he was very calm, which makes Amelia can't help but untie the bath towel to see why her body failed to charm Ray. The teenagers' desire to adore each other soon gets interrupted as the Blade Sorcerer tournament is about to take place. In addition to Ray's academy, there will be 2 other magic academies joining in the competition. Ray, as the Iceblade Sorcerer, won't participate directly, otherwise it's unfair to others. 2 students, Amelia and Albert, stand out in the selection match. Now Albert has escaped Gray's influence, and his relationship with Ray has eased. Ray can tell that Amelia is eager to win, so he privately trains Amelia. With the Grand Sorcerer as a tutor, Amelia's strength has been greatly improved, although the training process is so painful that Amelia has recently had nightmares, dreaming of her classmates around wearing exposed outfits to seduce her. Ray senses that Amelia is not in a good state, and in order to help her obtain information about her opponent, Ray disguises himself as a girl to get into the other 2 academies. Ray finds the favorite candidate for the championship of the tournament, Ariane, a girl who was once very good friends with Amelia before they grew estranged from each other as they have to fight for their families. Ariane is already shocked when hearing Ray, with a girl's appearance, speak in a masculine voice, and she is even more startled to hear Ray introduce himself as Amelia's friend. Ariane accepts Ray's challenge, which ends almost instantaneously with Ariane cutting off Ray's weapon. As an experienced fighter, Ray learns from this blow that Ariane is very strong. As he is ready to go back to start special training for Amelia, he helps to hold a girl who almost falls. The girl turns out to be Maria, the sister of Rebecca. She is so fascinated by Ray's faking girly look that she decides to enter a magic academy in the future. Ray as a man has built a large harem, but I didn't expect his girl form to be so attractive as well. After changing back to his boy form, Ray takes his classmates to visit his master Lydia, who seems to have become very playful since she was discharged from the army. Just after admiring Evie's pectorals, she is attracted by Elisa's bigger ones. Anyway, Lydia's adult jokes are just to break the ice, and she has an important task to complete this time, which is to help Amelia with psychological problems. The relationship between Amelia and Ariane is very complicated. They were once friends but now are opponents. Not to mention that Amelia has lost to Ariane in a duel. But after all, Lydia has taught top sorcerers like Ray, and Amelia soon cheers up under her enlightenment. Soon on the day of the tournament, Albert achieves a very good result and makes the way to the cut, until he meets the strong opponent, Ariane. Facing her, Albert has a sense of despair like fighting with Ray. No matter how strong his attacks are, they all get blocked by Ariane. The huge gap in strength eventually allows Ariane to win the game. Meanwhile, a mysterious man is watching Ray in the shadows. In this unusual atmosphere, Ray meets his senior, Rex, who fortunately is not an opponent. Rex takes Ray to meet Lydia and Abby. The senior is from a family responsible for espionage work in the kingdom for generations, and Lydia's maid Carla is also a member of the family. Besides, Carla and Rex are siblings. Abby tells Ray that they discovered there is someone planning to kidnap the children of nobles, so they arrange for Ray and Rex to join forces to keep the students safe. Most people are unaware of the approaching danger while enjoying the game in the arena. This year's tournament is a bit special, with several long-famous superiors and an unfamiliar face competing for the crown. The man's name is Lucas, who sets a match record by knocking out his opponent in just 2 seconds, and he makes a point of glancing at Ray when he exits. It seems his identity is not simple. At night, another popular candidate for championship, Ariane, is still practicing. We can tell her current super strength is not only affected by talent, but also by the efforts she makes that surpass most ordinary people's. different from Ariane. Amelia has even more serious psychological problems when the match is closer. She fears that she would lose to Ariane like before, causing her family to lose face again. As the descendant of the nobility, the girl has been under great pressure. Just as Amelia is about to be crushed by her psychological problems, Ray is once again the one who saves her. The Iceblade Sorcerer promises to stay by her side to help her find meaning in life against all odds. Amelia is so touched that she throws herself into Ray's arms and cries loudly. For the first time, she can remove her disguise of being tough. As the new day begins, Amelia and Ariane are about to have a showdown, while Elisa in the stands is a little jealous after knowing that Ray has been with Amelia last night. She likes Ray very much, and she is afraid that Ray and Amelia have already had an intimate interaction last night. In fact, Ray can spare no attention to think about love at all. He just heard from Rex that 8 students are missing, and through his powerful reconnaissance ability, he manages to find the kidnapped students, including his acquaintance Clarice. When he picks her up to leave here, they are besieged by a large number of kidnappers. Ray immediately releases his Chronos Lock to freeze all these people, and hands the other unconscious students over to Rex. At this moment, the battle between Amelia and Ariane has reached its climax. The two genius sorcerers have released their full strength. During one fierce fight after another, Ariane gradually gains the upper hand and is getting closer and closer to victory. That's when Ray finally shows up, which gives Amelia great encouragement, and the girl's potential explodes. Ariane is getting vigilant when she sees Amelia's aura become very powerful, as if she had completely changed into another person. The situation is reversed. Amelia fends off all of Ariane's attacks, standing until the end in a fierce magic onslaught. In the end, Amelia not only wins the duel, but also overcomes her psychological problems and reconciles with Ariane. That brings the end of the two girls' competition. What follows next is the final of the tournament, where the senior students Rebecca and Lucas will fight each other. Rebecca is famous for being last year's champion. However, Lucas beats her with just one hit. The audience erupts in cheers after a brief silence. Lucas takes the initiative to provoke Ray when he leaves. His master, like Ray, is also a grand sorcerer. He wants Ray to cure the overheat of magic as soon as possible, so that he can defeat Ray in next year's tournament, to prove that the sorcerer sect he belongs to is the most powerful among all grand sorcerers sects. But for Ray, next year is still far away. He has a lot of fun with his classmates during the celebration, even wearing a maid costume to participate in some activities. Ray's chest attracts a lot of attention, and Rebecca's sister Maria, who is also here, is directly stimulated by Ray's coquettish appearance to the point of nosebleeds. When Rebecca is strolling around with Ray, she seems to be a little bit down. Recently, she is forced by her father to be engaged to a man named Evan, who is very eccentric. But to not worry her friends, Rebecca doesn't tell anyone about it. On the last day of the celebration, Evan secretly kidnaps Rebecca. The origin of this man seems to be complicated, as he can even arrange a lot of monsters to block the pursuers. Fortunately, Ray, Abby, and Lydia have sensed his abnormality. As his friends drag the monsters, Ray is responsible for rescuing Rebecca. Before he arrives, we are first surprised to see there are two Evan appearing. It turns out the Evan, who kidnapped Rebecca, is disguised by a woman named Liselot, the imaginary sorcerer belonging to the Righteous Party. She teleports the real Evan to another dimension to temporarily seal him as soon as she appears. Liselot then creates a huge enchantment to trap Paradorogo, the man who follows Evan. She tells Ray that a mysterious magic power on Rebecca will cause her to fall into danger continuously. The only way to save her is to make her magic run out of control, and then seal it. Ray has experienced all this, so he will be in charge of the sealing work. Now, Ray finally realizes that today's accident was arranged in advance by Liselot, and this mysterious woman is not a bad person. Just then, Paradorogo shatters the enchantment. As Liselot has to fight with Evan in the other dimension, she asks Ray to deal with the man. In the dimension, Evan realizes that he is no match for Liselot, so he decisively uses forbidden spells to become a monster. It seems he belongs to the same organization as Miss Gray. Fortunately, Liselot is far stronger than Evan, and she defeats him with just one move. When Evan desperately calls Liselot the strongest sorcerer, she corrects him. The strongest title only belongs to the Iceblade sorcerer Ray. Liselot is right. Elsewhere, Ray has lifted his seal and defeated Paradorogo. It seems he has never lost since his debut, except for one defeat in his memory. At this time, Rebecca's magic power begins to spiral out of control, and Ray gives her a warm kiss, successfully sealing the out-of-control power. I think that this man's mouth is stronger than an ice blade. After this incident, Rebecca joins Ray's harem. Every night outside the dormitory, a group of girls want to have a baby with him, and the most exaggerated thing is that at the end of the video, even Ariane from another academy comes to him for a date. That brings the end of the first season. The end is full of suspense. Liselot and Evan have remained mysterious, and the organization behind Evan and Miss Grey has not yet officially appeared, but I believe all of these will be revealed in the second season. If you are curious about it, just subscribe to my channel, and we will watch the second season together. Bye bye.